Now, I don't know if it's because the world has been like, a little weird lately, but the horror genre has been absolutely going crazy this decade. And let's be honest, things did not start off very well. I mean, we had a global pandemic, and then AI started becoming a part of our everyday life. It's been consistent bad news like every day. The political climate is an absolute hell, and there's just been this weird, like, constant feeling that something is always about to go wrong. And horror movies have always reflected our fears as a society, but it almost feels like reality is literally feeding the genre. And the 2020s have given filmmakers plenty to work with. As a result, the horror genre has been on one of the strongest runs that we've seen in a long time. And now that we are officially 6.5 years into this decade, now is the perfect time to count down my top 30 horror movies of the 2020s. So far. Now, just to be clear, this list is not based on box office numbers, critic scores. Some of these movies might not even be the most critically acclaimed. These are just my personal top 30 that I've really enjoyed over these last 6.5 years. This is in no particular order. What I'm doing with this list is I'm starting from 2020 going all the way to 2026, because trying to rank 30 movies from my least favorite to my most favorite is egregiously hard, and I'm not even gonna try. So I'm gonna just give it to you in chronological order. Without further ado, let's get into the list. There are a few honorable mentions that I have to show some respect to. These are movies that I really enjoyed, but I just couldn't really say that they're in my top 30. Those honorable mentions include Malignant from 2021, which was the last horror movie that James Wan actually directed. This was one of the most divisive movies of this decade. A lot of people loved it, a lot of people hated it. I liked it, but not enough to consider it a top 30. The next one is Talk to Me, and yes, I know that might be strange to some of you because this movie was highly praised, but I just kind of, somewhat enjoyed it. I liked it a lot, but I didn't like it as much as everybody else. The next one is The Queen of Black Magic. Now, I really wanted to put this one in my top 30, but the reason why I did not is simply because it is not a 2020s movie technically. This movie came out in Indonesia in 2019. Now, had this movie released in the States like in 2020, I probably would have let it rock, but this movie didn't hit the States until late 2021. And yeah, while it technically didn't come to us until the 2020s, it's not a 2020s movie, so I'm gonna just let it stay in the 2010s where it belongs. Next up, I got A Quiet Place Part 2 and A Quiet Place Day 1. And I also got Last Night in Soho. Loved all three of those movies. However, when it comes to A Quiet Place, I do think the first one was far superior, and Part 2 and Day 1 were decent, but honestly, I watched them once and never really felt the need to revisit them. And Last Night in Soho was really good, very interesting, but I just wouldn't consider it like top 30 material. All right, but now that we got the honorable mentions out the way, let's really get into the top 30, and we're gonna start this off with number 30, Host from 2020. This was truly one of those movies that kicked off the decade, bro. I remember it released during the pandemic, and it really reflected the current times that we were in. Everybody was stuck on Zoom calls and Skype, and we couldn't go outside. So seeing a movie that like really reflected the reality of what we were dealing with was very interesting. But when it comes to the early 2020s, like, the pandemic era of the 2020s, I think Host is the movie that captures that entire era more than any other film, bro. So I definitely think that Host deserves a spot in the top 30 of the 2020s. At number 29, I got The Invisible Man. This movie was a major surprise, bro, because we know the original Invisible Man, from back in like, I think the 40s or the 50s. And I knew they were going to modernize it, but I did not know that that's the angle that they were going with. They turned it into more like a sci-fi horror kind of thing. And instead of making the Invisible Man himself the star of the movie, they made his wife, Cecilia, the star of the movie. And we saw this lady go through hell that whole movie, bro. This movie has some kills in it that were insane. Like that dinner scene, wild. I would legitimately put that dinner scene from Invisible Man in one of my top 10 most unique kills in a horror movie, bro. And 6.5 years later, it still plays the same exact way. Definitely deserves a spot in my top 30. Next up, I got another movie from 2020 that I didn't see until a few years after it came out, but Anything for Jackson. If you have not seen Anything for Jackson, you got to go check it out. Man, that old couple in this movie was freaking nuts, bruh. They really tried to kidnap that lady and do a reverse exorcism to try to bring their dead grandson back by resurrecting him through her unborn baby. Like, who thinks of stuff like that, man? That shit was insane. This movie also had a lot of humor in it, so it was more like a dark comedy, psychological, supernatural movie. Anything for Jackson is a banger. I definitely recommend it. Next up, bro, I got one of Shudder's greatest original movies of all time, The Dark and the Wicked, peak cinema. That is the only way I can describe it, bro. They absolutely cooked when they made this movie, bro. This movie reminded me so much of like The Conjuring. Go check it out. All right, next up, I got the last movie on this list from 2020, and that movie is Netflix's His House. Very shocked that this was a Netflix original movie. Not gonna lie. And I would consider His House to be one of the most unique horror movies on this list because it is an African horror movie. This movie is from Sudan, and honestly, it is one of the highest rated movies on this list. Like, it's currently sitting at a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. And even though I didn't use any critic scores to like make my list, I do have to highlight when a black horror movie has a 100% and it's a paranormal movie as well. It mixes that with like real life stories of asylum and people trying to escape their country to find a better life. It's very emotional and deep, very creepy, unsettling as hell, to say the least, bro. His House is definitely a very slept on film. You need to check this out. And like I said, it's on Netflix, so you can definitely go find this one tonight. The first movie of my 2021 list, I got not just one movie, not just two, but I got to lump all three together because they pretty much released like back to back. But that is the Fear Street trilogy, the first set of Fear Street movies, not Fear Street Prom Queen from last year. We don't acknowledge that. Bro, the Fear Street trilogy is absolute perfection. I am a Fear Street stan. I do not care. 1994 was fire. 72 was the other one. Fire. 1666, fire. All three back to back. Chef kiss. Absolute cinema. Once again, I cannot glaze this trilogy enough, bro. I will never forget the very first night that me and my old lady sat on that couch and we watched the first Fear Street movie, bro, and we were like in a trance. And I know the movie was good because she don't even like horror movies, bro. So when we watch a horror movie and I can see she's locked in, that's how I know it's a good one. I love the Fear Street trilogy so much, bro, that I would even argue that it is one of the greatest horror movie trilogies of all time. Not just this decade, of all time. I'm being so serious, bro. It's just a shame that they could not duplicate it again with Fear Street Prom Queen. I had so many high hopes for that movie, and it is what it is, bro. You win some, you lose some. But the trilogy, the first one from 2021, definitely stayed. And the second movie from 2021, The Sadness. Don't think I really need to elaborate too much with that one, but this movie took the internet by storm. Like, people were losing their minds, and for some strange reason it took me kind of a while to watch it. Like, I didn't watch it when it first came out, but I do remember when I finally saw it, I was like, damn, I'm kind of mad at myself for waiting so long. You talking about brutal, gory, disgusting, jaw-dropping, all of that? That's The Sadness, bro. Absolute banger. The Sadness should be on anybody's top picks of the decade list, bro. Next up, we got 2022, and I'm gonna just go ahead and let you know this right now. 2022 has the largest section on this list because 2022, in my opinion, is one of the top 5 greatest years for horror movies. I absolutely love that year, and 2022 is also the year that I started my content creator journey, so it's always going to be very special to me because a lot of those movies were some of the first ones that I reviewed. So what do I have for 2022? Let's get into it. First up, I got X. Now, admittedly, when I first saw X, I wasn't really the biggest fan of it. It took me 2 watches for me to finally appreciate it. In fact, I actually had to watch Pearl. Pearl made me go back and watch X, and I swear I looked at that movie with a completely different set of eyes. Plus, Ty West is one of my favorite horror movie directors. He has directed plenty of films that I love. If you somebody that's into those classic slashers like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, bro, X definitely scratches that itch. This movie was great. Can't praise it enough. Next up, I got a movie that I really did not expect to love as much as I did, but this movie comes from Finland. It's called Hatching. This movie stood out to me so much, bro, that I remember where I was and how I reacted when I first saw the trailer. When I saw the trailer for this movie, I was literally stunned. Like, what the hell did I just watch? And usually you can't really trust trailers that much, especially when they put like the good scares in the trailer. But I promise you, that trailer doesn't even scratch the surface as to what this movie got going on. And this is my first finished movie, period. Like, not even just finished horror movie. I mean, like, finished movie, period. Like, I ain't never seen or consumed anything from the country of Finland. And the concept of this movie, while it may be something that we've kind of seen before with like movies like E.T., where a kid discovers like a strange like species or an alien or something like that, and they like keep it, we've never seen this before. And the same director of Hatching has another movie coming out this year called Nightborn, and that movie looks like it might be just as crazy and potentially crazier than Hatching, and I can't wait. Next up, man, I got The Black Phone. I'm not gonna lie, bro, I really didn't expect nothing with this movie. 1, because I'm a horror fan, and 2, because this was around the time that I was really starting to get into doing movie reviews, so I was at the movie theater like as much as I could, so I wanted to catch everything. And when I saw The Black Phone, I was pleasantly surprised. And honestly, I think The Grabber should be considered one of our new horror icons. It's a slasher movie that mixed supernatural elements, and I like how The Grabber, in the first one at least, wasn't like a supernatural kind of figure like a Freddy Krueger or something like that, like what he became in the second one. I loved how the first movie just showed the Grabber as a regular dude who was clearly just crazy as hell. It made the character feel more grounded, and it made the movie feel a little bit more realistic until we started talking to ghosts on the phone. But up until that point, it was a very realistic, depiction of what it's like being a kid growing up in that era where parents barely watched their kids, and kids was getting snatched off the street like left and right. You can go on Google right now and find so many articles from the 70s, the 80s, where kids were just going missing all the time. Times were very different back then, and I think The Black Phone really showed you the accuracy of that time period. The Black Phone is a modern classic in my opinion, highly recommended, and that's why it made my top 30. At number 11, I got Speak No Evil. Now, don't get me wrong, I love James McAvoy's Speak No Evil from 2024. However, that movie didn't really do much different to make itself stand out from the original, so I don't really feel the need to really put it on the list, because I could just kind of group them together, to be honest. But for the sake of continuity, let's just stick with the original one from 2022. That movie was fantastic, and yeah, I see exactly what our parents was talking about when they said don't talk to strangers. I love seeing horror movies from different countries because every culture has their own type of storytelling. I love when movies show us worlds and different lifestyles that we as Americans would probably never experience. And I'm always going to be an advocate for foreign horror movies. So many people in the States are selling themselves short by only watching American horror movies, dog. Take some time and just read those damn captions on the screen. I promise you it's worth it, because if you've seen the James McAvoy Speak No Evil remake from 2024, then I promise you will love the original from 2022 just as much, if not more. Next up on the list, man, I got Barbarian, Zach Cregger's directorial debut. You want to talk about a masterclass of horror movie marketing? It is definitely Barbarian, because there ain't no way that you could have told me that movie would have turned out the way it did based on that trailer. Bro, that trailer had you thinking that this movie was about two people who booked the same Airbnb, and they were going to be trapped and going through some Saw type stuff, dealing with a crazy ass owner. Bro, it wasn't nothing like that at all. And then the movie fooled you twice, because when you started watching the movie, it really was trying to lean into Bill Skarsgård's character being the crazy one. Not to mention he was fresh off of being Pennywise in 2 movies, so people automatically saw him as the villain, because when you see him, you see Pennywise. But in this movie, he was the furthest thing from a villain, bro. And then he ended up being the first victim. And I do know that there are quite a few people who did not favor this movie. I don't get it. I loved it actually. But Barbarian is insane, jaw-dropping, and utterly disgusting to say the least. And I'm so mad that it's taken them 4 years to finally give us a physical copy. I already pre-ordered my 4K steelbook of Barbarian. I can't wait for the delivery date. I'm definitely popping that thing in, and I'm watching it as soon as it gets here. Can't talk X without talking Pearl. One of the most beautifully shot horror movies that you will ever see. They use that same color grade and film style to match the era that this movie was, set in. And Mia Goth's performance was stellar. It was phenomenal. And I really don't see how that girl didn't get no kind of Oscar for that. No nomination, no nothing for that. Clearly, me and the Academy didn't see the same movie, because how can you look at Pearl and not automatically be like, best actress off top? She deserved that, bro. Now, mind you, we just saw her playing Maxine in X, and now she's playing a young Pearl who is a totally different character. But we learned that Maxine and Pearl both had that same type of motivation of being a star. And then as the trilogy went on, we basically learned that Maxine was a reflection of Pearl, and that she was basically living her life over again. And very complex story. I loved it. And honestly, bro, Pearl is a classic in my opinion, bro. Highly respected. It deserves its place on this list. Next up, my favorite horror movie of the 2020s, bro, Smile. Yeah, I know, probably a hot take. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I know that's a hot take. I don't give a damn. I love this movie. I breathe this movie. Smile is a masterpiece in my opinion, bro. I got lucky enough to catch an early screening of Smile. I remember the movie came out, I think late September of 2022. I caught it right in the beginning of the month, and I genuinely genuinely was like, I think I just witnessed a classic. And I said it back then and I'll say it again. My only complaint about this movie is that they put that car jump scare in the trailer, because that still ended up being one of the best jump scares of the movie, but unfortunately it got spoiled in the promo. And had they not included it in the trailer and just let it show up in the movie naturally, bro, I think that scene would have hit even harder. Like, I don't know if y'all remember, but they had random people at sporting events just in the crowd smiling at the camera. Yeah, bro, I knew this movie was gonna be generational from the promo, from the trailer, and when I saw it myself, I fell in love with it, and I still love this movie. Next up, man, I got one of my favorite found footage movies of this decade, Deadstream. As somebody who is a huge Evil Dead fan, as I'm pretty sure you can tell, I love anything Evil Dead adjacent. If it looks like the Evil Dead, if it sounds like it, if it has any of the same aesthetics, I am there day one. And I love found footage movies. It's my favorite horror subgenre. So when you combine my favorite horror movie franchise with my favorite horror movie subgenre, and you give me something like Deadstream, I am thoroughly pleased. My only complaint about this movie was how freaking annoying our main character was. That was kind of the point. Like, he was supposed to be annoying as hell, so I kind of let it rock. Just recently covered this on my top 10 movies to watch if you love the Evil Dead video, which, by the way, if you haven't seen it, go check that out. Deadstream is legitimately, if you gave Ash Williams from the first Evil Dead movie a GoPro camera and stuck him in a haunted house, that's what you get. You get Deadstream, and it is phenomenal. It's funny and it's spooky. Gotta love it. And last but not least of 2022, I gotta go with my boy Art the Clown, because Terrifier 2 always hold a very special place in my heart. If you were around when Terrifier 2 came out, bro, then you would understand the cultural impact that that movie had. It came out on a limited release, very few theaters in every city was showing it, and after its like initial weekend, the hype and the buzz around that movie went so crazy. They extended the release, they opened it in more theaters, it made hella money, it put Art the Clown on the map, instantly became a horror icon. Art the Clown blew up so much from that movie, bro. That man ended up with a Halloween Horror Nights house. And you got to think about it, bro. Up until that point, we didn't have any more new slasher icons. So seeing a fresh face slasher, bro, loved it. And I ended up meeting a very good friend of mine, Mr. Steve Barton, who was a producer of Terrifier 1 and Terrifier 2. And to this day, that man is one text away. I love you, my guy. All right, now we're going into 2023, and 2023 does have a pretty solid lineup. I got about 5 movies from 2023 in this segment of the list, so let's get into it. Starting off with one of the very first movies that released that year, Megan. And I'm not gonna front, bro, a horror movie releasing in the beginning of the year, 9 times out of 10 is a red flag. But shockingly, and I mean like overly shockingly, Megan was great. I love the first Megan, bro. First of all, the marketing campaign was hilarious. Seeing all the people dressed up like Megan and dancing, I remember that trailer went viral on TikTok, bro. People was doing the recreation of the dances. Then they started releasing certain clips from the movie. And what I really appreciated about Megan, this was during a time where movies in general, not even just horror movies, but just movies in general, had started to become very serious. Everything had to have a deep message. Everything had to be about symbolism. Everything was just so damn serious at this time. And it was like, damn, did y'all forget how to have fun? Bro, Megan to this day is still one of the most whimsical movies of the 2020s. And again, I'm not even just talking about horror movies, bro. I'm talking about movies in general. You name me another movie that's more whimsical than the first Megan. I really thought that Megan was gonna set us up with yet another new horror icon. Then they dropped Megan 2.0, and that really sucks, because now we only have one good movie and one bad movie, and I need you to redeem yourself, Megan. Please go back to formula. But yeah, first Megan, loved it. May not be a classic, but I rock with it. Next up, I got Scream 6. Scream 6 was fire. I remember when I first saw that movie, I still rank it exactly where I ranked it 3 years ago. I said back in 2023 that Scream 6 is a top 3 Scream movie, and I meant it. I definitely enjoyed it better than Scream 5. It was way better than Scream 3 in my opinion. Truth be told, I actually kind of like it better than Scream 2. I don't really have anything to say about Scream 7, though. Don't expect to see that on the list, but Scream 6 definitely earned this spot. I gotta go with Evil Dead Rise. I already said this before, and if you've been following me for a while, you've been subscribed to my channel for a little bit, then you would remember when I said that when I first saw Evil Dead Rise, I was not the biggest fan of it. However, my opinion of that film has changed over time. In fact, it's actually become my comfort Evil Dead movie. Not my favorite, but my comfort one. It's the one Evil Dead movie that I will just throw on just to have something on. It perfectly scratches that itch when you want to watch something that's, you know, edgy and dark, but you don't want to go old school, but you also don't want to go too dark like Evil Dead 2013. But Evil Dead Rise kind of had like a fun factor to it. And even though it was gory, it was brutal, in my opinion, in comparison to 2013 and Evil Dead Burn, Evil Dead Rise is easily the most tame one of the new three. Definitely borderline horror comedy. And Mommy Deadite is one of my favorite Evil Dead characters, so definitely Evil Dead Rise is a comfort watch for me. Highly respect this movie now. Didn't really like it that much at first, but I love you now. Next up, I got a movie that I feel like we should have been gotten a sequel for. Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. Bro, upon first watch, this movie became one of my favorite slasher movies, dog. I think that boy Eli did an amazing job with this movie. And I can admit that Eli Roth is not one of my favorite horror directors. I think he is kind of hit or miss too, but Thanksgiving might actually be my favorite Eli Roth movie. Yeah, I know, hot take. They should have given us a sequel for this movie already, but from my knowledge and understanding, they were working on it, but I think it got like delayed a few times and like there's some production issues with it, but I'm hoping that they get that together real soon because I need my Thanksgiving 2 ASAP. And to conclude my 2023 list, I gotta go with When Evil Lurks. Y'all gotta stop sleeping on foreign horror because this movie is freaking wild, bro. I specifically remember when this movie came out, bro, there was only 2 movie theaters in my entire area that were showing this movie, and out of those 2 theaters, I think they only had like 1 or 2 showtimes each. When I went to the theater to see this movie, it was only me and one other dude in the whole auditorium, and the whole time this movie was going on, it's like every time some shocking thing happened, he looked back at me like, and I looked at him like, I don't know. Disturbing as hell. This is easily one of the most disturbing movies on this list. And then when I found out that it was made by the same person who made Terrified from 2017, made perfect sense why this movie was so batshit crazy. It's just not one of those movies you just put on for the hell of it, bro. Like, that's a movie that you watch with intention. If you've never seen this movie, when you see it, your jaw will be on the floor, point blank period, and your stomach will turn. If you got a weak stomach, don't watch it. But if you can stomach it, go ahead, tap in. When Evil Lurks is like that. For sure. All right, for those of you who are still rocking with me, I really appreciate you for rocking with me for this long, because now we are entering 2024 and I'm going with Late Night with the Devil. Quick little fun fact, this was my very first partnership with Shudder. As a horror movie fan, as a content creator, working with a horror streaming platform is kind of like a goal of ours, especially, you know, when you first getting started. You want to be recognized by the platforms that specialize in what you do as a creator. So when I was recognized and reached out to by Shudder, I was very happy. They DM'd me on TikTok and was like, hey yo, we got a campaign, let's chat, let's talk numbers and let's see what we can do. And I ran a promo ad for them, and that's part of the reason why this movie is so special to me. First started making content, the first thing I said was I want to do a deal with Shudder. It eventually happened and I was very happy about that. But all personal experience bias aside, bro, the movie delivered. It's nothing worse than doing a promo ad for a movie that ends up being trash. So I'm very happy that the movie that I did an ad for was great. David Dasmalchian did a great job in this movie, and as somebody who is a huge like analog horror fan, I love that movies are starting to adapt the internet horror aesthetic, because Late Night with the Devil easily could have been an analog horror series. I think it was a very unique take on the possession genre, and in my opinion, this movie kind of kicked off this new creepy retro TV show subgenre that we got going on, because ever since Late Night with the Devil, we got movies like Mr. Crockett, Magic Monkey's Merry-Go-Round. Even though the first movie that I can recall that was like this was the Banana Splits movie from 2019, I just feel like Late Night with the Devil just kind of pushed that little subgenre forward. And this year we getting a movie called Buddy. That movie looked like it's gonna be crazy. I've been covering that movie ever since I got the news of it. But yeah, bro, Late Night with the Devil was fire, dog. Like, I love that movie, bro, and the ending was insane. This movie did get a little controversy because apparently they used some generative AI, but I really didn't notice it. And even when I found out that it used generative AI, I went back and looked at it again and I still don't notice it. So hey, I guess good job on that. I would say that I would prefer filmmakers to try to not use it as much as they can, but as time goes along, bro, it's just something that's just gonna happen. But yeah, Late Night with the Devil, it scratches that found footage itch, it scratches that possession itch, the analog itch, it scratches all the itches for me. It's definitely up there for me for the year 2024. All right, next up, man, for 2024, I got the sequel to my favorite horror movie of the decade, Smile 2. Once again, peak cinema. Now, here's the funny thing about Smile 2. When I first saw Smile 2, I said, damn, you're not as good as the first one. And that kind of sucks. Still a great movie, still love you, but you're not as good as the first one. And my expectations were very high. That was until I saw the movie again. And this is why I always encourage people, watch movies more than once, because when you watch a movie the first time, I promise you, your brain only like digests maybe half of what you saw. But when you go back and look at it again, bro, I promise you, it's like watching it again for the first time, but with a better set of eyes. And now I don't know if I like the first one better than the second one. I don't know if I like the second one better than the first one, but they might be even for me, bro. I genuinely cannot pick. Smile 2 was phenomenal. It was sensational. It was absolute perfection, bro. This is the perfect sequel. I am afraid of what Smile 3 is going to look like, because how in the hell are you going to explain an entire concert of people witnessing the smile demon at work? We're talking damn near global pandemic levels of a curse. Like, I'm really interested to see how they're going to do that. And they probably taken so long to announce the official Smile 3 production because they probably bit off more than they could chew. They probably saw that ending and said, now how in the hell are we supposed to follow this up? And honestly, if that's the case, I don't blame them, because I'm still trying to unpack it myself. My opinion, it's a classic. Rose went through hell in that first movie, but I think Sky Riley got her ass whooped, rightfully so. Next up for 2024, I got The Substance. From a quality standpoint, I would consider The Substance to be in the top 10 of the decade. Like, if I did a list of horror movies of the 2020s, like based on like their overall quality, The Substance is definitely up there, bro. This was a great movie. And Margaret Qualley, or however you say her last name, forgive me if I've said that wrong, she did great too. And I loved how Sue's character was very sexy, but she wasn't like overly sexualized. She was a very enticing young woman, you know what I'm saying? So Margaret Qualley, she definitely did a great job playing Sue. This movie was very interesting to me for one specific reason. This movie is literally the horror movie version of Eddie Murphy's The Nutty Professor, like through and through. And I mean, like from start to finish, beat for beat, it's damn near the same movie, bro. Watch those movies as a double feature, and I promise you, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, everything down to the way the movie ended was literally the same. All right, going into 2025, let's waste no time. Let's kick things off with Companion. One of the reasons why Companion is on this list is because I love movies that reflect the decade they came out in. You know what I mean? Like, when you see a movie like Back to the Future, you automatically see the 80s all over that movie. You can't think of the 80s without mentioning Back to the Future. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with Scream. When you see Scream, the 90s are plastered all over it. And Companion is the perfect movie for the 2020s because it's a movie about AI, sentient AI that is acting like somebody's assistant, you know, Siri, Alexa. And this concept ain't really new, because we've seen, you know, the whole AI companion kind of movie since freaking Terminator and Smart House on Disney. But with the advancements of AI, that's what makes Companion a true 2020s horror movie. I think the only thing that I didn't like about this movie was the way that it was marketed, because it was marketed like an AI companion movie. So there was no real surprise factor to the movie. And the way the movie plays out, it plays out as if her being AI should be a surprise. That is literally my biggest gripe with this movie, and honestly, it's been a lot of people's biggest gripe with this movie, because the story set us up to be surprised, but you spoiled it in the trailer that she was a robot, bro. Big fumble. And this movie, just like Megan, which also was another AI movie, had a lot of whimsy to it, and I really appreciate a good whimsy. Next up, bro, I got a movie that low-key reshaped my brain chemistry. A movie that not only impacted the horror genre, but also impacted the culture. And by the culture, I mean black culture, bro. I'm talking about Ryan Coogler's Sinners, because you really had to be there. This is one of those movies that if you did not see this in the theater, I feel so sorry for you. If you didn't catch this movie in IMAX, I feel so sorry for you. Bro, I saw this movie 2 times. Once the regular way on a regular screen, and the second time was in IMAX. And I remember the first time I was watching that movie, bro, I said to myself, I think I might be witnessing one of the greatest movies I've ever seen in my life. And I still feel that way to this day, and that is honestly why I do not watch that movie. Sinners is not one of those movies that you just throw on in the background or on a casual movie day kind of binge. Like, no, bro, you got to plan around that. The same way I feel about like movies like When Evil Lurks, bro, you got to plan Sinners. Sinners deserves its own thing. As a matter of fact, Sinners doesn't even deserve to be in a movie night rotation. If you watch Sinners, that needs to be the movie of the night. You know what I mean? Got that man Michael B. Jordan an Oscar. The movie itself got multiple Oscars. And honestly, after seeing Sinners, I want Ryan Coogler to direct a werewolf movie. I think that would be fantastic. And as much as I would love to see like some universe and lore expansion of Sinners, you just gotta let stuff rock, man. Just let stuff be what it is. It's cool. Just let it be its own thing. You know what I mean? Even though I would love to see a little bit more. Next up, I got a tie. As my tie on this list, I have Strange Harvest and Weapons. Yes, I know, putting an indie film on the same level of a big studio movie that had the kind of impact that Weapons had might be crazy to some. However, the reason why I did that is because I did not feel about Weapons the way a lot of y'all did, but at the same time, Strange Harvest was my kind of movie. You know what I mean? Both of these movies gave me that murder mystery kind of vibe that I really love, and I do feel like there were a lot of things about Weapons that made it stand out the way it did. However, Weapons is one of those kind of movies that I can personally admit that I think the hype around it caused me to not like it as much as I would have. And the way people were gassing this movie up, and let's be honest, that trailer was crazy. I went into this movie expecting my socks to be blown off, and they weren't. Still loved it, still think it's peak cinema. I just think my opinion of it kind of got affected by all the hype, and yeah, that's kind of my fault, not gonna lie. But Strange Harvest, there was no hype at all. I randomly found that movie just scrolling through streaming services, and when I clicked on it, I saw somebody's name that looked very familiar to me, and that name was Stuart Ortiz. But Stuart Ortiz, for those of you who don't know, is the man who directed Grave Encounters 1 and 2, and Grave Encounters is in my top 5 favorite found footage horror movies of all time. I have glazed that movie since 2011 when I first saw it. I was in college, and when I found out that my boy Stuart had made a mockumentary movie, I was like, oh hell yeah, Grave Encounters, dude, doing a mock, sign me up. I ain't wasting no time, bro. When I watched that movie, bro, I was so in love with it. I mean, like, in love with that movie, bro. That movie caused me to DM him on Instagram like, hey man, introducing myself, can we please chat via Zoom? And me and him hopped on a Zoom call, and we talked about the movie and the plans that he got coming up for the Grave Encounters remake with Justin Long. But yeah, man, Strange Harvest is one of the best mockumentary movies you will ever see. It has like a paranormal thing to it, got cults involved with it. It's like a slasher as well. It is crazy. I want to see a little bit more from that world he was building, so hopefully he does some kind of follow-up. And honestly, Weapons also was a very fantastic movie. I cannot put either one above each other, so yeah, I'm gonna have to rock out with one tie only on this list. This is the only tie you will see: Strange Harvest and Weapons. All right, man, we are now at the bottom of the list. We are currently in 2026, the year that we are still currently in, and this year has also been pretty damn good when it comes to the horror genre. There is 3 movies so far this year that have stood out to me so much that they already have cracked my top 30. And honestly, these 3 movies should come as no surprise to anybody. They are Obsession. Don't think I really need to talk too much about that one. It's Obsession, the movie that's still currently trending, the movie that broke hella records, the movie that became the highest grossing movie of all time, the movie that most likely is going to make Curry Barker a legend, the movie that is going to be responsible for Indy Never Ready being a superstar in the future. Yeah, man, this movie is a cultural moment. This movie is definitely another one of those you had to be there. Where were you when Obsession dropped kind of moments, you know what I mean? Next up, man, Backrooms. Backrooms is sensational. I saw Backrooms in the theater twice, and I watched it at home the day that it was available to stream. I already pre-ordered my physical copy off A24's website. Once again, like I said before, as somebody who loves analog horror, creepypastas, them doing a full-length Backrooms movie caught my attention. I was very curious to know how they were going to do it, and then them bringing in Kane Parsons to direct the feature-length movie after he did all the Backrooms work with the short-form series on YouTube. I already knew he was definitely going to do this the correct way. I mean, you can't screw up your own series, you know what I'm saying? Very impressed at what he did as a first-time director at the age of 20. Backrooms definitely passed the home test. Backrooms, in my opinion, is just as good at home as it is in the theater, and honestly, that's probably because when the Backrooms YouTube series started, it started off as something that you watch at home. So yeah, it definitely appealed to me the same exact way that the YouTube series did. I love that movie, bro. I still think it has one of the best third acts of the year. Backrooms is a classic. I know they're gonna make a sequel, but I hope they don't tie it to this plot. I hope they do like the anthology thing where it's just like a different person every time with a unique experience in the backroom. This franchise honestly can go on for a very long time. I just hope they don't milk it to all be damned. And now, ladies and gentlemen, if you have survived this list this long, thank you. We are now officially at the very last movie of my top 30 and my favorite horror movie of 2026. Ladies and gentlemen, I have none other than Evil Dead Burn. Yes, sir. Absolutely. This should surprise none of you. You already knew what was happening. You should have knew what was going on when you saw the hat at the beginning of the video. I ain't even got to talk about it too much, bro. Y'all know I'm an Evil Dead fan. Y'all know I've been doing the Evil Dead breakdowns, short form, long form. Y'all know I've been going in. You know how I do. I am the deep dive king, and Evil Dead Burn is a great movie, bro. bro. It is way more deeper and symbolic and metaphorical than what a lot of people want to give these new Evil Dead movies the credit for. And yeah, bro, I know it is very easy to get distracted by the gore and the shock and the violence, but I'm telling you, bro, these new Evil Dead movies have so much symbolism. The metaphors and the messages behind these movies are so deep, and it's very impressive how they can just hide these very heartfelt, meaningful stories underneath all of this freaking brutality and just egregious violence. But if you really lock in and pay attention to what these movies are showing you, bro, the new Evil Dead trilogy really has something to say. And Evil Dead Burn is phenomenal in my opinion, bro. A lot of people are trying to hate on this movie. I ain't going for none of that. I love this movie. But yeah, bro, Evil Dead Burn is great, dog. I'm still literally dropping content about that movie as we speak. I just dropped a short form video. It is my favorite horror movie of the year so far. And honestly, the only other movie that I can see potentially taking its spot is Zach Cregger's Resident Evil. I have high hopes for that movie. And there's another movie that may also potentially be up there with Evil Dead Burn, and it's a movie that I talked about before, but I just saw a trailer for the first time the other day when I watched The Odyssey. It's called Other Mommy. Yeah, bro, that one looks like it's gonna be one for the freaking books, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you, dog. The studio already sent me the trailer personally earlier, so I will be dropping a reaction video as soon as I legally can, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, bro, that concludes the list, man. Evil Dead Burn takes the #1 spot for 2026 so far, and that is the end of the top 30. If you stayed this entire time, I'm really shocked. Thank you for that. That definitely helps my channel out. And y'all know the routine, man. If you are new here, hit the like button and the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be notified every time I drop a new Yap session. And for all my return viewers, welcome back, gang, and appreciate y'all for rocking with me. As you can tell, my voice is starting to go out. This video is long as hell, so I'm about to sign off because I can't take it no more. But yeah, man, until next time, it's your boy Stoney the Great. Y'all stay spooky. I'll catch y'all in the next one.